Hello, 5th graders, and welcome to a read-aloud of today's science ebook titled The Four Spheres of Earth, as needed for today's science lesson, Unit 4, Lesson 6, Earth's Systems. So what are the major Earth systems, and how do they affect one another? Let's read to find out. Let's read pages 4 through 27 in the ebook today. The Four Spheres of Earth by Paul Larson. Part 1. Big Blue Marble. The Earth's a big blue marble when you see it from out there. The sun and moon declare our beauty's very rare. From the Big Blue Marble theme song. On December 7th, 1972, from out in space, astronauts on the Apollo 17 mission to the moon took a picture of Earth. To them, Earth looked like a big blue marble. That name has been with the image ever since. This beautiful blue sphere tells many stories. 4 of those stories will be shared here. They are stories of Earth's 4 spheres. The 4 spheres of Earth are the geosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, and the biosphere. Geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere. Each one paints a unique picture of our home. So first off, what is the geosphere? Well, as it says right there, the word geo means Earth, and the word sphere means a big 3D circle. So geosphere can be thought of as the big circle of Earth itself. Scientists think of the geosphere as the part of Earth that includes its interior, or inside, rocks and minerals, landforms, and processes that shape Earth's surface. Let's take a look at Earth from the inside in, or from the outside in. That means looking at the layers of Earth. By the way, a quick tutorial before we get into things. Here's a simple breakdown to remember Earth's 4 spheres. So geosphere can be thought of as the land, so the rocks and minerals that make up the Earth, both the surface and the layers inside. The hydrosphere, hydra being the Greek word for water, so hydrosphere means all the water on the planet, like the oceans and rivers. The atmosphere, atmo being a word meaning air, so the atmosphere is the air around the Earth. And then the biosphere, bio being the Greek word for life, so biosphere means all of the life on the planet. Plants, animals, bacteria, and the like. And mixing spheres, even though each sphere is unique, it can sometimes be hard to tell one from the other. There is water inside Earth. If you pick up a clump of mud, is it part of the geosphere or the hydrosphere? Perhaps a little bit of both. A little bit of land and water mixed together. So looking at the geosphere first, starting with layers of Earth. Even though Earth looks like a big blue marble, it is rugged and covered with pinnacles and valleys. These range from the peak of Mount Everest to the deepest canyons of the Mariana Trench under the Pacific Ocean. Like a giant jawbreaker, Earth is made of several layers. One layer is the lithosphere. It encompasses the hard, rocky crust and the outer layer of the mantle. The lithosphere is made up of rocks and minerals. So there's the lithosphere, that's the part we all stand on, and then the upper parts of the mantle, where we start to see a lot of magma underneath the Earth. Beneath the lithosphere lie several more layers. They are the rest of the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. These layers are hot. So mantle reaches down here, there's the outer core, and then the inner core, which would be the very center of the planet. One layer of the mantle is the asthenosphere. It is thick and sticky. It is somewhere between a solid and a liquid. Scientists think that Earth's magma resides here, that being the asthenosphere right there. The outer core is made up of superheated liquid rock. Because it's below Earth's surface, it's hard for scientists to know what it looks like. They think this layer is mostly melted iron and nickel. These metals affect Earth's magnetic field. Earth's inner core is about 1,200 kilometers, or 745 miles, thick. At about 5,000 degrees Celsius, or 9,032 degrees Fahrenheit, it's Earth's most scorching layer. Because of the large amount of pressure, the inner core is solid. So the prefix litho comes to us from the Greeks, so another Greek word that means stone. So lithosphere translates to stone circle, or stone sphere. Rock families. Let's scramble back to the surface and investigate Earth's rocks. One type of rock is igneous rock. The word igneous comes from a Latin word meaning fire. Igneous rocks form both above and below Earth's surface, but always require plenty of heat. Hot magma cools into many types of igneous rocks, depending on the type of magma and the amount of time it takes to cool. Like all rocks, igneous rocks are classified according to their texture and composition, or what they are made of. Sedimentary rocks form in a much different way. Water, wind, ice, gravity, and sunlight all cause rocks to break down over time. This is called weathering. These tiny pieces of rock move from one place to another through the process of erosion. If you look through time, you will see sediments settling, forming layers. These layers compact over thousands of years. Finally, they are cemented together. This is how sedimentary rocks are formed. So typically, rocks formed by magma cooling down are going to be igneous rocks, like obsidian here. Obsidian is an igneous rock that has a smooth, hard texture and no grains or crystalline structure. Because of the way it breaks and fractures, obsidian has been used for centuries to make hunting and cutting tools, like an arrowhead right there. And Bryce Canyon in Utah is a pretty good example of sedimentary rocks, that being rocks that are formed by layers of sediment stacking on top of each other and then getting kind of compacted and cemented together over time. You can kind of see the layers in the rock there at the canyon. The erosion of limestone and sandstone at Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah has created a forest of canyons, ridges, and hoodoos, that's those things, which are tall stone spires. It's almost as if you're looking at a cave with its top cut off. Metamorphic rocks are the third family of rock. The word metamorphic rock comes from two Greek words. They are meta, which means changed, and morphos, which means shape. So together it would mean changing shape. So it's easy to remember what metamorphic rocks are. They are rocks with a changed shape. They are created when the structure, composition, or texture of a rock has changed. The molecules actually change to make a new kind of rock. Most of these changes are caused by extreme pressure and heat. For example, granite, that stuff right there, in igneous rock may change into the metamorphic rock gneiss when it is put under tremendous pressure and heat. So that would be this right here. So granite can be turned into gneiss through extreme pressure and heat that way. The rock cycle. The one constant in the rock cycle is change. Any rock can be changed into another type of rock. What if a sedimentary rock is pushed beneath the plate back down to the mantle? It melts and becomes igneous rock. Over time, an igneous rock may be worn down and deposited into layers, eventually becoming a sedimentary rock. And either of those two types, under extreme pressure or heat, will be changed into, that's right, a metamorphic rock. So right there is an organizer showing you how igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, or sedimentary rocks can be changed into any one of the other three types. Feel free to study that as you wish. So that was the geosphere. Next, let's look at the hydrosphere. Now let's dip into the hydrosphere. It is made up of all the water on Earth. This includes oceans, seas, rivers, lakes, and streams, and even the air's moisture, water vapor in the air. As you might know, 97% of the Earth's water is in the oceans. The other 3% is fresh water, lakes and rivers. Most of that is stored in glaciers, icebergs, and ice sheets. That doesn't leave much for the land, does it? Marine. Let's begin our journey in the ocean. Scientists have organized the ocean into 5 zones. Each zone has particular characteristics that set it apart from the others. So what are those 5 zones of the ocean? They're organized by how deep they are. So the 5 zones of the ocean are the sunlight zone, the twilight zone, the midnight zone, the abyss, and the trenches at the very bottom. So starting at the sunlight zone at the top. The sunlight zone is the part of the ocean we know best. It extends from the surface to 200 meters, or 656 feet, below it. The sun shines through it, giving light to a vast number of living things. In fact, there are more living things in this zone than in all the other zones combined. Photosynthesis, the process that helps a green plant turns the sun's energy into food, occurs in the sunlight zone. From microscopic plankton to the massive blue whale, the sunlight zone is full of life. Nearly 90% of marine life lives in the sunlight zone, and that's because they are swimming in sun-filled water. People can snorkel in the sunlight zone. Snorkelers can see many amazing sea dwellers such as sea turtles, stingrays, sea stars, and even sharks. Places like Florida and Central America have beautiful coral reefs and tropical fish that can be seen from the surface, all in the sunlight zone there. Now when you get a little deeper, where the sun starts to disappear and it gets darker and colder, you start to reach the twilight zone. In the twilight zone, sunlight, animal life, and plant life becomes scarce. Food is harder to find. The creatures of the zone move through a greater area. In fact, this zone starts at 200 meters and plunges to the depths of 1,000 meters, or 3,280 feet underwater, below the ocean surface. In some ways, the creatures here have it easy. Bits of food fall into this zone from the sunlight zone. At night, some creatures can just travel toward the surface for food. Because sunlight is barely visible, bioluminescence is the only source of light. This is light that is made by certain living creatures. Octopus, squid, and hatchetfish are some of the creatures that live in this cold, dark world. Then when you get even deeper, you will reach what's called the midnight zone. In the midnight zone, things really begin to change. This zone ranges from 1,000 to 4,000 meters, or 3,280 to 13,120 feet below the surface. At this depth, there is no sunlight at all, and the water is almost freezing cold. There's even less food here than in the zone above. Most creatures in the midnight zone are sit-and-wait predators. Many attract their meals with bioluminescent lures. Most of the creatures are red, black, or transparent, so they are fairly visible in that weak, self-made light. So some of the wild creatures that live down in these zones: the blood-red Crassota, Norvegica jellyfish lives at a depth of 2,600 meters, or 8,530 feet in the Arctic Ocean. And from light to dark, there is a unique creature living in the midnight zone called the vampire squid. It is a bioluminescent with a special characteristic. It can actually turn its colors on and off and change them as needed. Even its ink is special. The ink it ejects when it feels threatened also glows. Fascinating creatures down there. Almost alien. Then when you get below the midnight zone, below the midnight zone, you will eventually reach the abyss. As we dive deeper into the ocean, we come to the abyss. This region ranges from 4,000 to 6,000 meters, or 13,120 to 19,685 feet below the surface. The water pressure here would crush you, and the water is freezing cold. But even without light and nutrients, some creatures call this zone their home. These include sea urchins, sea cucumbers, and even some fish. These critters roam the ocean floor looking for leftover food particles. So deep sea exploration. This is a diagram of the deep sea explorer, Nereus. It was built to withstand 15,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. That is more than 1,000 times what you feel at sea level. So human beings need submarines like this in order to even be able to explore oceans that deep. And bioluminescence? There are shrimp in the abyss that can produce a bioluminescent cloud. This distracts their predators. Pretty clever for a little shrimp, indeed. And as for the very, very deepest parts of the ocean, we reach the trenches. The ocean trenches are the deepest places on Earth. There are long cracks that usually form along the edges of plate boundaries. They also form near chains of volcanic islands. The deepest place on Earth is Challenger Deep. It is located in the Mariana Trench of the Pacific Ocean. It is deeper than the tallest point on Earth, Mount Everest. Scientists sent a deep-sea robot called Nereus to explore this trench. Most of the creatures here are smaller than can be seen by the eye alone. They have to be. Larger creatures would have a hard time with tremendous pressure in this zone. Some scientists think these tiny creatures may look like Earth's earliest life forms. So one example of a larger animal that can survive in the abyss is the black swallower with its huge jaws. So coming out of the ocean, we're now looking at the freshwater. Most of Earth is covered in water, yet only 3% of that water is freshwater. To the plants and animals of Earth, fresh water is essential. Most can't live without it. Ice. Over 2/3 of Earth's fresh water is trapped in the ice of the polar regions and mountain glaciers. So we really can't use it, can we? The polar ice helps keep our climate stable by reflecting the sun's rays back out into the atmosphere. Groundwater and surface water. Is there a difference between groundwater, well, that's water found underground, and surface water, that found on the surface? Well, besides their name, yes. Groundwater is found underground in areas called aquifers. These can be spread out over large areas. Surface water is water that stays on top of the land. It flows through our creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes. So that'd be an example of an aquifer down there. Water trapped in the rocks of the earth. Our fresh water is precious. We need to be careful with how we treat it. Pollution from trash, pesticides, fertilizers, and even household cleaners can contaminate our surface water. As the water seeps into the ground, it settles in aquifers, taking the pollution with it. In fact, when we pump water from the ground, it can be even more polluted than our surface water. So that was the hydrosphere. On to the third sphere today, that being the atmosphere. Just what is the atmosphere? It is air that surrounds Earth. Most of the atmosphere is close to the surface, or it is quite dense. The atmosphere is made up of almost 80% nitrogen, that being a gas. Oxygen, the gas we breathe, makes up only about 20%. Oxygen is the most important gas in the atmosphere for humans. The rest of the atmosphere is made up mostly of argon and carbon dioxide, in very small amounts. Even though we divide it into layers, there are no sharp borders to the atmosphere. So the layers of the atmosphere, 4 of them. There's the troposphere, which is where we live, the one closest to the planet. Stratosphere above that, then the mesosphere above that, and then the thermosphere above that. So the troposphere, the one closest to the planet, or closest to the surface of the planet. The troposphere is the layer of the atmosphere closest to Earth. Compared with the rest, this layer is the densest. That is because the force of gravity is strong near Earth's surface and gets weaker as you move farther away. Gravity is tugging on the atmosphere. The troposphere is full of the air we breathe. It's also where Earth's weather occurs. The variations in air pressure in this layer cause weather changes frequently. On top of that, 99% of Earth's water vapor is here. That includes clouds and precipitation. So breathing at higher altitudes. Everyone breathes faster and deeper at high altitudes, such as when you're at the top of a mountain. Since the air is less dense at higher elevations, we need to breathe more to get the same amount of oxygen that we would get at sea level. Next up is the stratosphere. The stratosphere is the next layer. It ranges from about 13 to 48 kilometers, or 8 to 30 miles above Earth. The air is so thin in this layer that jets usually fly just above the bottom edge. The stratosphere contains the ozone layer. This thin shield protects Earth's surface. In the 1980s, scientists found that the ozone layer was disappearing. This let more ultraviolet, or UV light, reach the Earth. That being radiation from the sun. UV light can cause skin cancer and even damage eyes. That's bad news. Scientists discovered that a chemical used in making foam cups and other items causes the ozone layer to deplete or disappear. With a lot of hard work and a change in how we make these things, the world has banded together to repair the ozone layer. Next up we have the mesosphere. The mesosphere is the layer beyond the stratosphere. Near its outer regions, it becomes the coldest of the layers. It can get as cold as negative 100 degrees Celsius, or minus 148 degrees Fahrenheit. That is colder than anywhere else on Earth. Scientists still have much to learn about this layer of our atmosphere. Jet planes cannot reach these high altitudes. Weather balloons, used to study Earth's weather and atmosphere, cannot reach this layer either. It is difficult to learn about something when you can't get close to it. So some of the things we're able to see in the mesosphere are meteor showers, like the Perseid meteor shower. And in fact, a shooting star, if you've ever seen one, is just a meteor reaching the mesosphere. The friction causes the meteor to heat up and create the tail that we see. And lastly, we have the thermosphere. The outermost layer of the atmosphere is the thermosphere. Thermo being the Greek word for heat. It's the thickest of the layers. It ranges between 85 and 600 kilometers, or 53 and 373 miles, above Earth. 2 interesting things are found here. First, the International Space Station orbits in this layer. Second, auroras occur in the thermosphere. Auroras are light displays in the sky. They are seen in the polar regions. They are called the northern lights or southern lights, depending on which hemisphere you're in. If you have the opportunity to travel and see them yourself, they occur most often in spring and fall. Temperatures during the day in the thermosphere can reach a scorching 2,000 degrees Celsius, or 3,632 degrees Fahrenheit, because the sun is hitting it directly and causing it to heat up a lot. That's why it's called the thermosphere. And aurora lights, this phenomenon occurs when the sun sends charged particles into the atmosphere. The molecules start to bounce into other molecules, lighting them up. So that's what causes the aurora borealis, or the northern lights. And the final sphere for today is the biosphere. The biosphere is the entire world's ecosystem and all the living things that inhabit it. It is where all of Earth's spheres work together. Let's take a minute to think about how they interact. The geosphere interacts with the hydrosphere and the atmosphere. Rain feeds into streams and rivers. This gives needed water to the biosphere. Streams and rivers erode rocks, creating landforms that are home to many living things. The atmosphere also keeps the geosphere and hydrosphere at a consistent temperature. This allows life to thrive. But the biosphere can also impact the other spheres. So quick note, what is it that causes the Earth's seasons? Well, the tilt of the Earth's axis is about 23.5 degrees. So as the Earth rotates on its axis, it's actually tilted a little bit. Because of this tilt, the sun shines on different latitudes at different angles as the Earth revolves around the sun. This causes Earth's seasons. So because of the Earth's tilt, that will cause sunlight to hit certain parts of the world more directly than others. When you're in a part of the world that's getting much more direct sunlight, you're probably in the season of summer. Whereas if you're in a part of the world where the sun is facing away from and getting a lot less direct sunlight, you're probably in the part of the world that's experiencing winter. Ecosystems. Let's consider how one ecosystem in the biosphere can affect the other spheres. In a forest, for example, grasses use the sun's energy to grow. Mice eat the grass. And then snakes eat the mice. Worms help mix the soil, which helps more plants grow. Plants' roots hold the soil in place, which prevents erosion. Animals drink water from the hydrosphere. Plants and animals live on the geosphere and in the hydrosphere. They are surrounded by the atmosphere. The biosphere is truly where all of the spheres of Earth meet. Planet home. Our big blue marble provides living things with all the things they need. Deep below Earth's surface, metals are made. They produce a magnetic field that protects our planet. Up near space, the thermosphere protects Earth from harmful rays from the sun. Even the ocean, or hydrosphere, has zones that each play an important role. Since our home provides a thriving environment for us, we need to remember to take care of it in return. Everything is connected. What affects one sphere or even one living thing affects everything in the end. The flow of these forces has a huge impact on our biosphere. So as for how delicate the biosphere really is, there are a number of factors that affect the living things in our biosphere and, in turn, Earth. One massive factor is the distance between Earth and our sun. If our planet were closer to the sun, Earth might be too hot to support life. Our water might evaporate. But if Earth were further away, it might be too cold. Thankfully, the Earth is just at the right spot for all of our spheres to be in balance.